What if I told you that Vancouver's real estate market just hit a turning point that could define the next 6 months for buyers and sellers? Prices are slipping, inventory is surging, and a controversial new ruling could shake confidence across the province. I'm Craig Veroni, and in this video we're unpacking the key shifts in Greater Vancouver's housing market for November, and why your next move might be your smartest yet. Stick around to the end to hear my forecast for early 2026 and the hidden opportunity most people are missing. Let's start with the numbers. In November, we saw 2,257 homes change hands, a 21% increase from October, making it the second busiest month of 2025 behind July. This kind of month-over-month jump tells us that buyers are still out there and willing to move when the right home at the right price comes along. But hold on, while that sounds impressive, year over year, we're still down about 14%, and roughly 14.5% below the 10-year average. In plain language, it means it isn't a hot market. It's just a market that's doing better than the last couple of months, but still underperforming compared to what we normally expect at this time of year. It's more of a cautious, selective market than a frantic one. Inventory is the other big headline. We're hovering around 15,800 active listings. That's up 13% from last year and 36% above the 10-year average. When inventory gets high, it's like having too many seats and not enough people at the table. Buyers suddenly have choice again, and that shifts the balance of power. So we've got more products, slower sales, and longer days on market. For sellers, that means you're competing with a lot of other listings, and buyers are not feeling rushed. For buyers, it means you can be more intentional, negotiate harder, and walk away from listings that don't make sense. The benchmark price for a home in Greater Vancouver now sits at $1,132,500. That's down 5.1% from the market peak earlier this year. In fact, we've seen 7 straight months of price declines, bringing us back to pricing levels we last saw in March of 2023. So if you bought in the last 18 months, you're probably seeing values that are either flat or slightly below where you purchased. Now, this isn't a crash. This is more of a correction of the rapid gains we saw when interest rates were lower and buyer demand was extremely strong. We're essentially unwinding a portion of that froth. Median and average prices tell a more optimistic story with month-over-month gains, but the big picture still points towards softening. What that usually means is the best homes in the best locations are still holding their value reasonably well, while more average or compromised properties are where you're seeing the biggest price adjustments. The market is rewarding quality and punishing anything that is overpriced or poorly presented. So what's fueling this shift? Well, it's a mix of macroeconomic forces and buyer psychology. Interest rates may have come down, but we're still sitting in pretty high territory compared to what we all got used to from 2020 to 2022. Payments are simply more expensive, and that affects how much people can borrow and what they feel comfortable taking on. And while the Bank of Canada is remaining steady for now, affordability remains tight. Even small differences in interest rates can have a meaningful impact on monthly payments in a market as expensive as Vancouver. So buyers are doing more math and less emotional decision-making. Job growth in BC has slowed, especially in construction and development. That matters because those sectors are closely tied to confidence in housing. When projects are delayed or put on hold, it feeds into the narrative that the market is slowing down. On top of that, people are constantly hearing headlines about deficits, government spending, and economic uncertainty. And all of that filters into how bold or cautious they are about making a big move. Meanwhile, new federal budget measures are heavily tilted toward rental supply rather than supporting home ownership, which leaves a lot of first-time buyers still sitting on the sidelines. They want to buy. The desire is absolutely there. But between high prices, stricter qualification rules, and limited direct support, many are choosing to wait and see how things unfold into 2026. Speaking of sidelined buyers, rental prices in Vancouver continue to trend downward. We saw a 7.4% year-over-year decrease. And with new rental inventory on the horizon, many investors are either cashing out or pausing new purchases. Lower rents with higher borrowing costs is not the equation investors are looking for. This is especially true in the smaller unit segment, studios and one-bedroom condos that were heavily investor-driven during the boom years. When rents soften and vacancy inches up, those units become much harder to make cash flow positive, especially when purchased during peak prices. That doesn't mean investment in Vancouver real estate is dead. It just means that the strategy has to evolve. Investors need to be more selective about product type, location, and numbers, rather than stretch into a property that doesn't make financial sense on day one. Another factor adding some uncertainty is the recent land title decision involving Indigenous land claims in Richmond. Without going into all the legal jargon, a court decision has essentially acknowledged overlapping Aboriginal title in areas that we already have fee simple titles, the kind of ownership most owners have. While this is a highly localized issue geographically, it's creating ripples throughout the province. Anytime the concept of clear title is called into question, even in a narrow region, it makes people pay attention. Buyers start asking more questions, lenders take a closer look at risk, and lawyers and insurers become much more cautious. Right now, this is not something that every homeowner in Greater Vancouver needs to panic about, but it is something that the market is watching very closely. So what does this mean for you? If you're a buyer, this is a moment to watch closely, and for some of you, a moment to act. More options, motivated sellers, and less competition can work in your favor, especially if you're well-financed and shopping smart. This is the kind of environment that you can negotiate on price, terms, and even completion dates in a way that simply wasn't possible during the frenzy years. If you've been waiting for the market to calm down so you can make a thoughtful move, this is the kind of market that rewards patience and preparation. For sellers, pricing strategically is key. Homes that are priced right and show well are moving, but gone are the days of aspirational pricing. Buyers have more options, and they're comparing you to more inventory than they were a year or two ago. That means you need to nail three things: presentation, pricing, and promotion. The home needs to look its absolute best. It needs to be positioned correctly against the competition. And it needs a marketing plan that makes it stand out from the competition, not just another listing lost in the scroll. December and January are traditionally quieter, but I expect a big focus to shift to the spring 2026 market. A lot of people are going to use the winter to watch interest rates, pay down a bit more debt, and see how the broader economy feels. So don't be surprised if the next couple of months feel flat in terms of activity. The real question is what happens once we get clear signals about the Bank of Canada's next moves. If the markets start to anticipate further rate cuts, or we actually see a reduction, that can very quickly change buyer sentiment. Add in any new federal or provincial policy that supports home ownership, and we could see a meaningful uptick in demand, especially from buyers who've been sitting on the sidelines for the last year. If you're thinking of buying or selling, or just want to chat about what this market means for your goals, reach out and I'll walk you through exactly what it takes to buy or sell in today's market. Having a tailored strategy, not just reacting to headlines, is going to be the difference maker in the next 6 to 12 months. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because on this channel, you're going to find everything you need to live, love, and own Vancouver.